Hi, Peter Brock here from BRE. I'd like to tell you a little bit about Shelby history that most people are not really aware of because, as you know, the whole program that most people are aware of is what happened with the Ford Motor Company and the GT40 program, and Carroll took it over and completely redid it, the preparation, and took the team back to Le Mans to win in 1966. But before that, Carroll was actually running as a privateer team when we were running the Cobras, and had done the development of the Daytona Coupe, which actually was racing against the GT40 program. Most people don't know this, but Shelby was actually competing with Ford Motor Company, even though they were paying for the program sort of out the back door because their own program was a little slow getting going. And there were a lot of political battles going on inside to decide where the budget for the racing program for Ford was going to go. Was it going to go to Holman Moody, who was fabulously successful with their NASCAR program? Was it going to revert to John Wyer in the UK where the GT40 had been developed, or was Shelby going to get it? So nobody was really understood. That was all a secret within management. So one of the things that Carroll wanted to do to be sure that he was on the scene racing at that time was having me design cars ahead of time for the next season in the event that he didn't get the program from Ford Motor Company. And one of these is a car that very few people know anything about. It's a DeTomaso P70, which was a collaboration between Carroll and Alejandro DeTomaso to build a Can-Am car, actually just before the Can-Am series started really in about 1965. But it's called The Road to Modena. So the book is the whole history about how we got there from the beginning of my starting with Carroll. I was his first employee, and the development of the Cobra Roadster, which I did a lot of the development on the car out at Riverside Raceway, testing that car with Ken Miles, going through the design of the Daytona Coupe. And then at that same time, I was also doing some outside projects like the Nethercutt Mirage and the Lang Cooper and several other sports racing cars that went along with that car, and the whole history of the development of the Corvette at the same time, and how we were developing our own Cobra to race against it. So that whole history is in here until the time that I went over to Italy to design this car. There is all in quarter scale and clay that I'd done before I went over there. And the car was built on a spine chassis that DeTomaso had developed. These were all new concepts that nobody had ever done anything with. One of the really fascinating things about this book is the experience I had in going over to Italy to do this car with Carrozzeria Fantuzzi. I didn't speak any Italian at all. But I went over there with my drawings, expecting to build a car very much like I'd done the Daytona Coupe, that I drew the whole thing up and did all the section lines and made up all the patterns on it and created this very sort of complicated, large ice cube shaped buck over which to do the aluminum panels. And when I arrived over there and brought out my drawings, rolled them out, and tried to explain to all the fabricators there what we were doing, they looked at it and said they just shook their head because I'd done it in quarter scale and inches. They worked in millimeters. So there was no way for them to transfer that. I mean, these guys were shop guys to do the conversion, all these little detailed drawings that I'd done on my blueprints. They said, don't worry, we can handle it. And I had absolutely no idea how they were going to do it. But the fabulous thing was that the Italian artisans are really fabrication artisans. They do everything by eye, and they took my drawings, completed it all by eye, created all in a wire form, and created this whole car, and did all the aluminum work in a completely different manner than we built in the United States. So I had a chance to see how things were done in the United States. I had a chance to see how things were done with the English or the Japanese or whatever. But going over to Italy and working with the Italians was probably the most extensive and interesting area that I ever had in working in design work. And it was interesting because this little shop was on a back street in Modena, and all the surrounding people that lived there would take an interest in what was going on. So if we'd ever roll the car outside, it immediately attracted a crowd of local Italians who were all, connoisseurs of automotive design on their own. And it was so much fun over that 3 months or so that I spent there that I learned to speak Italian and how to order dinner in Italian and learned about all the great things about Italy with the great wines and the great Modenese foods. And it was a whole history for a car that unfortunately never really got completed, because just about the time that the car was getting completed, Ford Motor Company came to Carroll and said, okay, cut out every other program that you're working on. We want you to concentrate on our new car, which is the Ford GT. It had already failed in 1964 as a GT40, but they had brought the program back to the United States, had it converted at Carcraft in Dearborn, put the big 427 engine in it, and gave Carroll the job of preparing those cars and racing it. So this car never actually raced under Shelby colors, and it was taken back by Tomaso. It was shown at the Turin show in 1965. It was the actual star of the show there. So everybody knows about the car as the Tomaso car, but it was actually Shelby that put up the bucks for it at the beginning. And then it never got going because Tomaso had claimed that he could take the regular 289 engine and bore and stroke it and make a 427 out of it, because that was what's going to be needed in the Can-Am program. And when he finally got the program going, discovered that he couldn't do it because the engine didn't get changed to the 302, which had an extra half-inch of deck height and could be made into a 427. But by that time, Ford had come in and given the entire racing program, development program, to Shelby. So this program was cut off, but it was a fabulous design project, one of the ones that was really loved, because we were way ahead of the car with the aerodynamic wing on the thing. There were cars that were years ahead. For example, this aerodynamic wing on the back, this was 20 years before Ferrari did the F40 Ferrari with the wing on the back. So it gives you an idea how far ahead we were at Shelby's with the projects that a lot of people never got to see. And that's the whole story in here, and I think you'd enjoy the history. So if you get a chance, you can contact us at bre2.net online and order the book, and I think you'll enjoy the history, not just on this car, but all the other cars that I had a chance to work on. That's why it's called The Road to Modena, which was the last project that I got to do for Shelby under his name before we were actually with Ford. And then later I did another project with him with Chrysler, and that book will be coming along as well. So it's all in here. I think you'd enjoy it. Take care.